I'll give some people time. So we're probably going to start in around 3 minutes at 7:03, just in case some people are getting something, getting a snack or anything. So yeah. Hello? Okay, yeah, 7:03 now. So yeah, well, I guess we'll start now. So let me share my screen. So in this lesson, we will be going over the senses and how you perceive the different parts of your surroundings. So for this class especially, I'm going to try to go a bit slower, but if it comes to the point where you're thinking the slides are going too fast, just type it in chat and I'll go back to the slides that you need to go to. And also just don't feel that obligated to take note of everything in the slides, because a lot of the info might be accessory information. So it's pretty important just to get down the main information. So yeah, don't try to worry about writing everything down in a notebook. Try to understand it. Yeah. So yeah, in the last class, we discussed the fascinating nature of the brain and the spinal cord. These two structures coordinate all the actions that we do. For example, me giving this presentation, and they also help coordinate the changes in the environment that we sense. These senses are the topics of today's classes. Let me put the chat in my second screen so I can see it. Okay, cool. So first, let's give an overview about the senses. Most animals have the same senses that we do, and the 5 senses that you might know are sight, vision, taste, sound, hearing, all of that good stuff. And however, some animals can have heightened senses or increased senses for something in particular. An example of this is that dogs can sense higher pitches than we can. This can be seen whenever you have the dog whistles and they blow out really high pitches, and only dogs can hear that. Can y'all hear me? Oh, okay. Wait, can y'all hear me now? It works. Oh, okay. Okay. Now let's just restart that then, or let's go back to where we were left off. All right. Okay, yeah. So I'll just go back to this slide. This is like the first slide that actually starts. So we're saying that most animals have the same senses that we do, and this includes sight, touch, smell, hearing, and taste. So other animals can have increased senses for something in particular compared to us. For example, dogs can sense higher pitches than we can, which is how the dog whistles work, because they're really high pitched and you can barely hear them. But dogs, they hear them a lot. And so these signals start with receptors that sense the changes in our environment. And so there's touch receptors that sense touches. We'll get into all the different types in a bit. So yeah, you don't have to really take any notes on this slide. And for the most part, don't really try to worry about taking so much notes because you just want to get the information from here. But so the main thing you want to know from this slide is that the things that sense the different changes in our environment are called receptors. Yeah, you can take some screenshots if you'd like, but I'm going to upload all these slides anyways to the Kid Teach Kids website or in a Google Drive. So yeah. So yeah, the signals start with receptors that sense the changes in our environment. So first, let's discuss the properties of these receptors, since they're so crucial to our understanding of how we sense the entire world. So the main function of a receptor is to change one form of energy into another. You might think this as light energy that hits your eyes turns into electrical energy that is transferred through your brain. Because if you remember from the last weeks, the neurons and the parts of the nervous system, they communicate through each other by sending electrical signals. So it's really fascinating how these different objects, such as the eyes, can transfer that energy from light into electricity. Whenever a sensory signal in the form of this electricity reaches the brain, we feel it. And the fact that we're feeling it is called a sensation. I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with that term. The sensation of getting touched on or getting hit by a baseball, I don't know. That's what we feel, sensations. And here's a really important thing about it. Not all signals actually reach the brain to the point that we are aware of them. This is really important because if everything that we sense about our environment is going up to the brain, then it would just drive us crazy because we wouldn't want to know the exact temperature of our environment every second of our lives because it would most likely be something really annoying. So that's why only the important changes in our environment are actually sent up to us. The example would be if someone's like pushing you, you would actively know that, okay, someone's pushing me. But if the temperature changes 0.1 degrees, then that's not going to really matter and affect you. So it won't reach that point in the brain. So nothing really here to actually take notes on too much. Main thing is that the receptor converts one form of energy to another so that we can sense them. So yeah, now let's go learn more about the different receptors. So sensory receptors signal 4 main categories of information. The first is the type of sensation that it produces. We could say that would be vision, hearing, or touch. So that's what it would like, the type of what it's doing. Secondly, it's the location of the environmental change or where the stimulus is. If you remember or recall from the previous lesson, a stimulus is just something that changes in our environment that makes us do a response because of it, like just pushing your hand to the stimulus. So that's the second thing, the location. Thirdly, it senses how intense it was. For example, if you heard a sound and it was loud or it was soft. Then fourthly, how long the actual the environmental change lasts. So this is important in a phenomenon known as adaptation. You may have heard of adaptation in your science class, how animals adapt to their environment. And it's pretty similar to this, but it's whenever you have an environmental change that's staying on for a really long time, For example, let's say your shirt on your with your shirt on your body, it's actually causing your receptors to signal to your brain that there's something on your chest, for example, your shirt. But if it go there for a really long time, you start to become unaware of it. That's really important because after some time, you don't feel like your shirt's, you obviously know your shirt is on you, but it doesn't become to the point where you're actively sensing that. And you just know it's there, but you don't really feel anything from there. That's because if it lasts for a really long time, you just don't become aware of it anymore for a lot of receptors. So yeah, the main thing from this slide is to know the 4 types of things that last. You don't have to know about specific examples, but just know that sensory receptors signal the type of sensation, the location of the sensation you're experiencing, how intense it was, and how long it actually lasted. I'll keep this slide up for a bit. Okay, so if you got those 4 main things down, I'm going to go to the next slide. So yeah, this one is probably going to have a lot of information in it, so don't feel overwhelmed. But another way to categorize, so like there are many ways in which we can classify or organize the different receptors into different groups. And the broadest and most widespread way, I guess, that you could either classify them is by either if they're a fast or slow receptor. There are obviously many other ways to do it, but this is the main one that you could use because it's only 2 different classes, fast and slow. So fast receptors are receptors that adapt really quickly. So if the stimulus is very long, it will stop sending signals almost immediately. So an example is something that detects hair movement. So if you were to have, let's say, hair on your hand, it might not be the best example, but if you were to move your hair on the hand so that it's like not in the position it was earlier, after a very quick amount of time, you're going to forget that it's ever like moved. However, if you go to a slow receptor, which adapts very slowly, you're still going to sense that your hair is in a different position, even if things like going there for a very long time. So an example of this is something that responds to pain. This is why it can also explain why even after like the initial pain occurs, for example, if you hit your hand, you're still going to feel a pain for a longer period of time because it's slowly to adapt. You're still going to feel it. So the main thing to get from this one is that there's the fast and the slow receptors. And fast receptors, they adapt really quickly, and slow receptors adapt really slowly. And then we'll see that there's, for different types of receptors, there's like a whole multitude of ones that are fast. A lot of them could be slow. It really depends on the situation that's happening and why you need it to be fast or need it to be slow. I'll leave this slide up for a bit so people can take notes. This one, yeah, don't write down everything here. Just know that the fast adapt quickly, slow adapt slowly. Yeah, perfect. That when your suit gets itchy, you get used to it. So yeah, when you get used to it over time, because of the adaptation that's occurring. That's a good example. Okay, let's go to the next one. Now, we talked about fast versus slow receptors, but now let's go into by the type of things that they actually sense. So the first type of classification is by thermoreceptors. You may know that the word thermo means heat, which makes sense because thermoreceptors sense heat in different temperatures. So this one should come up. Okay. Then the next one is photoreceptors. Photoreceptors sense light, and they are in your eyes. So you might know that the word photo means light, and so photoreceptors means light receptors. Then you have chemoreceptors. Chemoreceptors, you have the word chemo, which means chemicals. It's the CHEM in there. So chemoreceptors means sensing chemicals. Then you have nociceptors. This one is probably a newer term, but nociceptors means pain. This is probably something, if you have to write it down, I'd write this one down because it might take some time to get to remember it. But these receptors sense the pain, for example, if you hit your arm really hard or you fall down. And then the last one's also pretty important to write down. And these ones are called mechanoreceptors. But if it's too advanced, you don't really have to. So mechanoreceptors, you think the word mechan, it means mechanical. So like deformation of something in your body, like you're stretching something, you put pressure on it. But those, you don't really have to know that for now. But the main ones that we'll be discussing are the photoreceptors and the chemoreceptors anyways. So yeah. But the two main ones, if I would have to write down on your, if you have a notebook or anything, are the nociceptors and the mechanoreceptors, because those might get some time to get used to. I'm gonna leave this slide up for a bit. Oh, someone else on the Q&A. Where would chemoreceptors be found? So we'll get into this in a bit, but for example, it could be in your tongue, since food is nothing but a bunch of chemicals and molecules put together. Or it could be in your nose is another one, because it's the same thing. Basically, the food emits a bunch of chemicals in the air that you can smell. So that's a good question. So yeah. Okay. So let me go into the next one. Oh, someone in chat. Okay. Next, let's go to taste. So yeah, we're going into taste now. Perfect timing, actually. So this is a fun word to know, but the sense of taste is actually known as, oh, you're eating right now. That's cool. The sense of eating, right? The sense of taste is known as gustation. So yeah, known as gustation. And the sensory cells for your taste are clustered in your taste buds. A common misconception actually is that the bumps on your tongue when you look in the mirror and stick out your tongue, the bumps on your tongue people think are your taste buds, but they actually aren't your taste buds. They are a structure known as papillae. And there are multiple types of papillae, but we don't really get into them. We don't need to. But papillae have the taste pores with taste hairs in them. And what that does is it allows for the different food molecules to get into there. Is taste the first sense you've talked about? Yeah, taste is the first sense we're talking about. Yep. This is the first sense or this is like the first in-depth what senses we're going to be talking about is taste. Yeah. So you don't have to really know the last part, but I think the first few ones, just get used to it. The taste buds and the papillae, two really important parts to it. Okay. I'm going to go on to types of tastes. So molecules from your food, like I said earlier, so these like molecules in your food or the chemicals in them will dissolve in your saliva. And that's how we actually taste, or they'll break down in the saliva because of these. That's how we actually taste, through them. So the first taste is saltiness. The next one is sweetness. And you can guess that sweetness is produced by sugar. The next one, people might not really hear about much, but it's called umami. This one gives the meaty taste when you eat, for example, a steak, chicken. That's what gives you the meat taste from it. That's umami. And sour taste, it's associated with acid or citrus fruits, such as an orange or Sour Patch Kids. And then there's bitter, which is the spoiled foods. Recognizing the bitter taste is actually really important, because then we know not to eat spoiled foods like that ever again. And for our previous ancestors, it would be really important because they wouldn't know if the food was spoiled or not. And if they ate it and it tasted bitter, they would immediately spit it out. So something poisonous in the food wouldn't get in their body and they would get sick. So while you might not like to taste bitter food, it's a really important really important thing that we have. Wait, all the time, is it spoiled or not? Well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean if all the time it is spoiled or not? Okay. Yeah. What makes something taste sour or bitter? So there's a lot of things that can make it taste sour or bitter. It's the different molecules in it. We have been trained over times of our generations that whenever that binds to on these cells, I don't know how to say, it's a really complicated thing, but on these taste buds that help sense what the tastes are, to specific molecules, it causes a specific response. For one molecule in a food, it may produce a sensation that it's sour, and for another molecule that is probably going to be poisonous, it would give a sensation that it would be bitter. But not all bitter foods are obviously poisonous, because you can obviously, like, some vegetables may taste bitter, but they're not poisonous. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not all bitter stuff would be poisonous, but back in whenever our ancestors were roaming, then it was probably really important for that. So yeah. Okay, now let's get on to smell. So the sense of smell is known as olfaction. Oh, someone in chat. But no, not all bitter stuff are spoiled. No, because you can obviously have something that's not spoiled and be bitter. Like, I think dark chocolate, some people say are bitter. I've never had dark chocolate before, but and sometimes people say vegetables are bitter. So maybe coffee is also bitter. Yeah, coffee is bitter. So yeah, but people take coffee all the time. So yeah. So on to smell. So olfaction is the sense of smell, and that's just a is it called unami, not unami? Oh, I don't know how it's pronounced. I might be wrong with that. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. So yeah, but so olfaction, the sense of smell, into that, and the chemicals in the air that we sense are called odorants. And you might know the word odor. Something smells bad, it has a bad odor. So those chemicals are called odorants. And the cells that sense the smells are neurons, which is pretty important, or they're types of neurons. And the olfactory, there's something called the olfactory mucosa that surrounds the inside of the nose. You don't have to know that. That's more of a fancier term. But mucosa you can associate with mucus, which might show like the mucus-ish like lining around your nose. And so, yeah. But the last one you don't have to know. That's more of a fancier term. But the main thing you want to get from this slide is that the chemicals that we sense in the air are called odorants. Let me move this here. Okay. So yeah. Now we'll go continue talking about smell. So it's pretty interesting, but humans actually have a poorer sense of smell than most mammals. And another fun fact is that women are actually more sensitive to smell than men. And humans can distinguish between 2,000 and 4,000 different odors. So we've evolved to establish and differentiate between a wide range of odors, which is why you could smell a lot of different things and pick up on certain scents that only apply to one certain thing. Like, for example, the scent of something, let's say, I don't know, a cookie, a scent of a cookie. When you smell it, you'll immediately know that that's a cookie, because your cells have evolved to respond to so many different things. And another thing, this doesn't really matter, but something I wanted to talk about. So whenever you smell something, it's really like the cookie, for example, right? When you first smell a cookie, that smell and the scent there can get stored in your memory. So the next time that you smell a cookie or smell that same scent, it's going to remind you of a cookie. So that's how the memory and smell also work into play together. So yeah. Oh, this slide was mainly just fun facts. Nothing really too much to memorize. So yeah. You don't really have to write anything down here. Okay. Okay, now let's learn about the pathway of how smell actually reaches the brain. So we have the odorant, which are the chemicals that the food release and we smell, and it binds to a receptor in your nose. And because it binds to a receptor, it starts an electrical signal that travels through the neurons or like the wires of your brain. And this signal is sent to your brain, and then we have a sense of smell because of it. However, before it goes to the brain, because there are a bunch of different receptors in your nose, all of these receptors in their neurons, they all converge onto one thing called the olfactory bulb. Then from the olfactory bulb, they proceed from there into the rest of the brain. The last part as well is another fancier term that you don't have to memorize, but it's probably important to know about how after it goes to the olfactory bulb, they go to the rest of the brain, and then that's how we perceive the sense of smell. So it's pretty generic that it just binds to the receptor that goes to the brain. So olfactory bulb is the only really unique thing to it that you could say, aside from a lot of other complicated stuff about it. But yeah. Wait. Yeah, so you have to know everything. Just look at the olfactory bulb right here. Your nose is right here, and then everything, you could see that all the different receptors in the neurons, they all converge onto the olfactory bulb. And you don't have to know about the other stuff like cribriform clay, olfactory nerves. But from there, you can see it's going to the brain right here. So yeah, they all just collect there, go to the brain. Okay, can you go back to the olfactory bulb slide? Yeah, sure. Tell me whenever we're fine to move on. Okay. Oh, cool. So this is it. Okay, now let's talk and transition from smell into sound. So first, let's talk about sound in general because it's a really interesting topic, in my opinion. So you hear things because of the air molecules that actually vibrate. And one way to visualize it is think about when a water ripples when you touch it. It's like this vibration in waves that carry on to our ears. And think of the ripples like the air molecules that are changed from where they are. So yeah. Sound can travel through water, solids, and air, but it cannot travel through a place such as space. That's why you hear no one's going to hear you in space if you're saying something, because sound can't travel through it. Because there's nothing for the air molecules to vibrate around since there's no air in space. So another example you can think of is a loudspeaker. When the speaker comes forward and someone's talking in it, the air molecules are actually moved out of their spot and they're also pushed forward. And these molecules collide with more molecules, which collide with other molecules. And then eventually it reaches your ear, in which you hear everything. And you can think of it like a game of pool. Wherever you get your stick, then you hit one ball, that hits another ball, that hits another ball. And eventually one of the balls is going to go into the, I don't know if it's called a goal. Sorry, but yeah, one of the holes at the corner of the pool table. So another thing about sound is pitch. Pitch is how high or low the sound is. And then there's loudness, which is the intensity of the sound, and it is measured in decibels. So from here, the main thing to take away from this slide are knowing about the how sound travels through colliding with other molecules, like a game of pool, and then also know about pitch and loudness, and knowing about the decibels, which is how the loudness and the intensity of the sound is actually measured. So higher decibels would mean more, would be really loud. For example, 120 decibels, I don't know what it actually matches to, but I know 120 decibels is like really loud, and 30, 40 is like much quieter. So yeah. But you can probably find a chart online about what the decibel level is compared to what like a specific example is. Like if I remember correctly, like the vacuum, how do you talk louder in a microphone? So I'm pretty sure it's just like, I might be wrong on this. I'm not too like versed on this part of the talk louder thing, but it might just because whenever you talk in a microphone, it's like your mouth is smaller, but the microphone is much bigger. So it causes more collision of molecules, which results in a higher intensity of the sound because more molecules are colliding. But I might be wrong on that. I haven't really read out too much on that. So that's a really interesting thing. So yeah. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next slide. So yeah, now we're talking about the ear, which about the actual body now. So there are three parts of your ear. There's the outer ear, which you can see, the middle ear, and then that connects to the inner ear, which is all the way deep inside your body, in your head. So we have the outer ear, and so in the outer ear, there's the auditory canal, which is like the passageway, the ear canal, you can say, that sound travels to enter your middle ear. So think of like if you're picking your ear, which I don't know, it's not a good idea, but that's where the auditory canal is. So the outer grooves and shape of the, wait, that was a typo, my bad. So the outer grooves and the shape of the outer ear, as you can see right here, is actually shaped to direct sound into the canal. That's why it's sort of curved right here, because if it hits right here on the side of your ear, it's going to go curve right inside of your ear. So it's shaped so that more sound can be actually entered. And this part right here, the fleshy part, is called the pinna or the auricle of your ear. You don't have to know those two fancy terms, but just know that the shape of your ear is so that more sound can enter. The next we have the middle ear. This part transfers the sound from outer ear into the inner ear. It is also made of your eardrum, which is another important part. And then the sound from your outer ear is transferred to your inner ear through three main bones. So yeah, so three bones is connected. So the sound hits one, that transfers the force to another, that transfers the force to another, and then that goes to the inner ear. And then in the inner ear, that's where you actually sense the signal of sound, because the sound waves here cause different neurons to fire, which is how the sense of sound is sensed. What are the bones' names? So there's the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. I'll type it in chat. Hammer, anvil, stirrup. Those are like the common names, but the scientific names are the malleus, incus, and stapes. You don't have to know those names for now, but so not necessarily something you have to pull your notes in. But yeah. Oh, another fun fact about the stapes or the stirrup bone is that it's actually the smallest bone in your body. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, since we're kind of running out of time, you can just like screenshot this shot because we have a couple more pages to go to. So yeah, but there's nothing really much here you need to memorize or anything. Just know it goes to outer ear, the middle ear, then the inner ear. Yeah, so you can see right here, you have your pinna, or your auricle, the ear canal, your eardrum, your middle ear, and these are the three bones, the inner ear, and you have to know about the eustachian tube. You can look it up if you want, but these are the three main things that you need to know for hearing. All right, finally, the last sense we're going to talk about is vision. So vision is the perception of objects by the light that they give out. It's extremely important. Having vision is one of the most important functions that we can have, because if we weren't able to see anything, it would be really hard to get through. And the eye socket that holds your eye is known as the orbit. Sort of, you could think of it as sort of orbits around your eye. That's how I like to think of it. But the orbit is known sort of the eye socket that holds your eye. Main thing to get from this slide is just the orbit, is eye socket that holds the eye. Nothing really too much with this slide. So this part is actually probably going to be something we might have to take more notes. So first part in the eye that we're going to discuss is the cornea. So the cornea is the outer part of your eye, which protects it. Fibrous just means it has a lot of fibers in it. So the cornea is the outer part. Then there is the iris. The iris changes the size of your pupil, which is like the center of your eye, you can see. and it changes the amount of light that can be let in. So it's known that the iris controls the amount of light that comes in. And the retina, oh, wait, hold up. Someone in chat. Are ears made out of cartilage? Yes, they're actually made out of cartilage on your outside ear. Yes, that is true. And so the retina at the back of the eye and the receptors for the actual light are here. So all the sensations you get from light, your vision, they all start at your retina. And then you have the lens. The lens of your eyes focuses and refracts or bends light onto the fovea. Then the fovea is the focus point of the light on the retina. So the light is going to focus onto the fovea, and it's like sort of in the center-ish part, not necessarily in the center, but sort of in the center-ish part of the retina. So yeah, I'll leave the slide up for a little bit more because there's a lot more terms you have to remember. But cornea is the outside, iris controls the amount of light, retina has the receptors that actually perceive the amount of light. The lens puts light onto the retina, the fovea, and the fovea is the focus point of the light. But you don't have to actually memorize everything. It's best to just be familiar with the certain terms. I'm going to leave it up for around 30 more seconds or so. Okay, that was around 30 seconds, give or take. So, oh, someone in chat. Oh, hello. So yeah, let's go next. So here's the diagram of the eye. You can see the cornea out here, the iris. You don't have to memorize this stuff. This is just so you know where everything's happening. See the fovea right here, the retina at the back. Oh, oops, wait, yeah. Cornea, iris, lens, fovea, then your retina. You don't have to, yeah, this is actually an eye diagram, yes. You don't have to memorize this. So just know, this is just to get familiar of what you're actually seeing. And so you know like the arrangement, I guess, of them. So I'm not gonna leave this up here too long because you don't have to memorize this right now. So now we're going to learn about the pathway of light sensing. I think this is the last slide, but so here's how we actually get the light to come reach us. So first, the light, as we have seen before, it travels through the eye and it hits the retina at the back. And so in the retina, we remember that this is where all the photoreceptors are. Remember what those was? Those were the light receptors. And there are two main types of photoreceptors. So the rods are one type, and they sense the amount of light happening if it's bright or dark. And then there's the cones, and the cones sense color. So one way I like to remember it is that C is in cones and color also starts with C. So cones are color. And then you just assume that rods are going to be whatever else is left. So rods are light and cones are color. So from there, the signals from your photoreceptors go to a nerve called the optic nerve. Optic has to relate to eyes because optic means eye. So they all go to the optic nerve. Then from the optic nerve, this transmits the information to the brain, which is how we see the vision. Originally, the image is actually upside down when it first reaches the brain, but then that is eventually corrected. And another important thing to know about the vision is that the vision from each eye goes to the opposite side of the brain. So vision from your left eye is going to go to your right side of the brain, and vision from your right side of your right eye can go to your left side of the brain. Can we leave? No, class ends in 4 minutes, 7:45. So yeah. I'm going to leave this up for a bit because people want to take notes. But so I don't think we're going to have time for practice questions today. So yeah, just there's nothing really much to know here. Just know that they go to the rods. And the rods and cone is probably the most important thing here. The rod sense the light, and the cone sense the color. So now, so like here are the practice questions. I don't think we have time necessarily for them. So if you want to ask questions or you want to answer the questions in chat, go ahead. Just do whatever you want. Answer them in chat or ask questions for me, because we have around 3 more minutes left of class. So yeah, type your answers in chat right here, or just ask any question you have about any topic. So yeah. We can go over the answers to the questions if no one has any question about the stuff. So yeah, I guess like what is a sensation? That's just what we feel, all of that. And it's actually that we're aware of. It goes to our brain. What structures in our body sense the changes in the outside world? The second one is a receptor. The receptors, if you remember, sense the changes in the outside world. Bitter sometimes equals poisonous. Yeah, sometimes. But that's just like the main thing that in our ancestors used. Some people actually like bitter taste. I don't know why, but yeah. And gustation, if you remember, is taste. And the name of the receptor that senses changes in temperature are known as thermoreceptors, because temperature is thermo. Thermo means heat. So yeah. That's pretty much it for this, but I want to leave this thing up. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. And sometimes coffee sometimes be poisonous. I'm sure at really high amounts, if you drink like a ton of coffee, it's probably going to be bad for you if you like drink a lot of coffee, because the caffeine in coffee can have some effects into your brain, which I don't know if we covered that in previous lessons, but oh yeah, Yiming, don't drink a lot of coffee. It's bad for you. Don't drink too much. I don't even drink coffee because I'm already normally hyperactive, so I don't need the caffeine. Yeah. Tastes good? I don't know. Yeah, I don't like the smell of coffee anyways, because it just doesn't smell right with me. So I just don't really drink it. Also, my parents don't let me drink coffee, so that's that. Oh, rip. It's actually really funny because are you old? Well, I'm 14 right now, so I guess I'm old enough to drink coffee if I wanted to, but I just don't want to. Like, I would go to Starbucks with my friends, with their parents, obviously, and they would like all get coffee and stuff, and I'd be the one kid that just got like chocolate milk. And it was so weird because chocolate milk is just like, I don't really like coffee, so I would just get chocolate milk, and it was pretty weird. Oh, okay. So this is the end of class. So if y'all want to leave, it's 7:45. Let me stop sharing. So yeah, this was a great class. I hope you all have a good day. And yeah, bye.